Again by Super Bowl champ Chris Canty. Chris, thanks for hanging with us.
Appreciate you.
It feels like we were just recapping the Super Bowl, and now we are back into preseason football again. That was a quick little break from football, and now I'm happy to make all three of you happy.
I'm glad you feel that way.
It felt like forever.
Awesome. Way to be on it, Jenna. Way to nail it.
Once an hour.
Yeah.
7-17, now 8-18.
But I thought you were going to be like, thank you. That was you're being not awkward.
Segment.
Oh,
this is his
third segment. You're right. You know what? Hey, let me try this again. Chris Canty's back with us. We're going to get right to some football. We're talking about one of your former teams, Canty, the Ravens. They drafted Lamar Jackson with the last pick of the first round this year, officially putting 11-year vet Joe Flacco on notice. Last night, Flacco tossed a touchdown pass in his only series. In the next series, Lamar comes in, immediately leads the Ravens on a 73-yard drive, capped off by an impressive 9-yard touchdown run. What did you learn about Lamar Jackson last night, Chris Canty?
Well, I learned that he's a difference maker, and you saw some of the things in terms of movement skills, physical ability, athleticism that made Ozzie Newsome and the Baltimore Ravens front office decide to draft him in the first round. When you look at his impact on the offense, just being able to pose that threat to the defense, being able to run the football have a quarterback that can scramble, that can buy time, that puts so much more pressure on a defense.
Yeah.
If you're a defensive coordinator, you can't run any man coverage schemes because you can't have those guys running with their back turned because Lamar Jackson always poses the threat to break, contain, and pick up some yards with his legs. So that's the thing that you look at in terms of being able to have a quarterback that has that athleticism that Lamar Jackson possesses. But there's still some fine-tuning in terms of learning the quarterback position, right?
You can see
the fundamentals of the position, being able to go through the progression, make the right decision, and get the ball to the receiver on time. Those are things that are going to come with time. Lamar Jackson is a project. We knew it wasn't a finished product coming out of Louisville, and that showed up as well.
A lot of times, too, it's about expectations. Nick and I were talking about expectations this morning. And after conversating with Ozzie Newsome and some of the staff there in Baltimore this weekend, they were at the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and seeing Lamar play in the first preseason game, that they're impressed with how much football he knows. They're impressed with his overall work ethic and how he comes to work every day. They're also impressed of what they see when he makes mistakes, because they see a guy that immediately corrects them, and they think that his arm is more than strong enough to be a good player. They do realize there's going to be some bad days. There's going to be some days where he is under 50% as far as completion percentage, but they like and are very, very pleased with what they see. But you just have to be patient. The one thing that I'm concerned about, I was on the field with him. He's a small guy, man. I mean, he is slightly built, and he's got a small frame. I'm talking about Russell Wilson's a small guy, but he doesn't have a small frame. He's thick through his body. His shoulders are wide.
Like Baker, right? A little thicker, even though he's short.
Yes, and he's not built like Michael Vick.
No.
He's built more like RG3.
Yes, that's the
And Randall Cunningham, you know, not the height, but the frame. So that right there will be a concern of mine until he masters throwing the ball in the pocket.
That touchdown run we just showed, which was his big highlight of the day, because I think he's the only quarterback in the league that can make that exact play right now. As far as, I mean, he basically made two guys miss 3 separate times. It also was the scariest play to me, because the only thing I could pull on my memory to see a quarterback do that was Vick and RG3. And Vic had some injury issues. That's not what obviously derailed his career in Atlanta. But RG3, I mean, the problem is this. It only takes the one hit. And RG3 learned that, as you were talking about the other day with Haloti Ngata. Like, it only takes one time.
Yes.
And you see right here, I'm going to make you miss. But sometimes
you get in there with that first-team defense, they're a little closer to you. They can breathe on you.
And I think Lamar caught a lot of unfair flack. People were wondering, are they even going to be able to understand what he's saying when he's calling the play? Like, he doesn't speak well. I think all that's nonsense. What's fair is the throwing stuff. Like, and the throwing stuff sounds like I'm minimizing it. I'm not. Like, He basically needs to improve every aspect of fundamentals in regards to throwing the football. But the ability to force teams to play zone, the ability, I always think, is so much more demoralizing for a defense if a quarterback picks up a 3rd and 9 by you have guys covered, you have a good rush, and he still gets the first down with his legs. Like, that's, at least as a fan, you're watching, you're like, you got to be kidding me, as opposed to a regular completion. I think there are things he can do that are special, but you see how raw he is. Mm-hmm. You see why, despite being a Heisman Trophy winner with a year left in school, why he wasn't considered a top 10 pick because he and Josh Allen are the two, for very different reasons, the two first-round quarterbacks that are longer-term projects than Darnold, Rosen, and, of course, Baker.
So does that mean you guys can't see him starting this year in a Ravens uniform? Could you see him making that kind of leap?
But I know the commitment from Ozzie and the organization. They're committed to him long term.
So it's not a...
Yeah, I mean, Nick, he's the one schooled me as far as Flacco. All the guaranteed money after this year is going to be gone. So they're looking for that transition quarterback. And for them, they've made a decision. It's going to be Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, well, they've got some time, though, because they don't have to get rid of Joe Flacco after this season.
Yes.
So it all depends on how Lamar Jackson develops as the course of the season goes on. And I look at what he did last night, and I looked at Baker Mayfield as well, and you try to compare the two, you can see that Baker, in terms of understanding the offense that Todd Haley wants to run and just the grasp of the concept,
look how many
it's at a different level than where Lamar Jackson is with Marty Morningwig's offense. You can see some of the decision-making was a little bit questionable. That jump ball that he threw to Chris Moore, that was a big play, but that was double coverage. There was no need to make that play at that point in the game. And so when you start talking about a young quarterback making those types of decisions, when you start getting to the regular season, I don't know that he's going to be somebody that you can rely on in terms of trusting his decision making.
And the point that you made earlier about Baker, that once you go to Baker, you got to stick with him, that's true with all these rookie quarterbacks. Once you put him in, I feel it's a big mistake, unless they go in due to injury. Once you say you're my starter, it's a mistake to then jerk him out of the starting lineup.
I think that sometimes, though, because they can bleed out on you, sometimes they get so bad that you have to be able to send the vet. Right now in Baltimore, the best quarterback is Joe Flacco. But when people have a plan, sometimes that plan might be 2019, but if Flacco gets off to a bad start, I could see them running him in there 15 or 20 plays throughout the game to get him ready for which they consider to be next year. But shoot, that could be right now if they don't get off to a good start.
And the point when we were talking about Baker, and I'm sorry to bring him up again, but I think it's relevant in the comparison, the two rookie quarterbacks, is they weren't running any Oklahoma stuff. Were the Browns. Like, they were running all pro stuff. Some of these Lamar highlights yesterday, there's a read option. Oh, there's a quarterback keeper sweep around the outside.
Yeah.
Now, I get it. You want to utilize your player's skill set as best as you can, and he is an elite speed athlete. But, like, they are going to soft pedal some of this stuff as far as asking him to do all the concepts. And, as odd as this sounds, they got better weapons in Cleveland than he's dealing with right now in Baltimore. Like, when we're talking about
they got a better offense.
They got a better offense.
Yeah, they got a better offensive line.
They got a better offensive line.
Yeah.
I like their running back room better. I like their wide receiver room better. Like, that's the thing about Baltimore. I was hard on Flacco, and Cece's point about the guaranteed money is every year since they've won the Super Bowl, it would have cost the Ravens more money to cut Flacco than to keep him.
Yep.
Like, it would have, and next year's the first year that the dead money hit is significantly lower or at all lower than his salary. That's why they actually have the ability starting next year to move on.
Just very quickly, these are two very different quarterbacks, Flacco and Lamar Jackson. So I would imagine you have two different game plans going into it. Is it hard for them to create a completely different game plan for one than for the other, for everyone else besides the quarterback, Chris?
Well, yeah.